32 Smith & Wesson long versus our 32 ACP, and what we have today is our Buffalo Bore hardcast ammunition. So our 32 ACP is a plus P, and it is a 75 grain hardcast flat nose rated at 1150 feet per second. Our 32 Smith & Wesson long is a 115 grain hardcast flat nose rated at 800 feet per second. So I'm going to use my Ruger LCR and our 327 Federal Magnum to test the 32 long, and our Kel-tec P32 to test the 32 ACP. So basically the reason why ammo like this exists is because, I'm going to paraphrase here, Buffalo Bore says that basically most of your 32 ACP and 32 Smith & Wesson long ammunition is not good for self-defense because you're not going to get good enough penetration. So if you put a little bit more punch behind that and you make it a hard cast, you have a chance of penetrating pretty far, you know, trying to get kind of similar penetration to, let's say, a 9mm gold dot that expands. But since we don't deform those bullets, you know, that lack of power we have going on with those hard cast bullets might make them penetrate adequately. So this should be a very interesting test. I am going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy I get at the same time. Then I'm going to do my 10% clear ballistic test. I'm going to go into plain clear ballistics to see what the best potential of those cartridges are. Then after that, I'm going to do more of a real world simulation. 4 layers of denim on this first 3-inch piece that represents our pectoral muscle. I know it's kind of redundant, but I like to stay consistent with my test. After 3 inches of clear ballistics, we'll have a 1/4 inch medium density fiber board that's going to represent hitting ribs or sternum. So we'll do a plain clear ballistics shot and a real world simulation shot. And then I'm going to do something a little bit interesting here. I want to see if there's a big difference there with those hard casts for defeating something a little bit harder. So I do have a 22 gauge steel piece here that I painted red. Put that on an old gel block here, and we're going to hit it with some different ammo that's just basic run-of-the-mill ammunition. Our Remington Wheel Gun Performance 32 long 98 grain lead round nose, and our Cellular and Bellat 73 grain full metal jacket for our 32 ACP. So 32 long, 32 ACP. I'm going to back up a little bit with this because I'm not 100% sure how well this lead stuff is going to, you know, if it's going to go through that very well. So I don't want to be really close and get it ricochet. So I'm going to back up a little bit for those shots. And then we'll compare it to the hard cast and see if the hard cast will go through that a little bit better. And then, as always, I'm going to shoot at the steel target to see what kind of practical accuracy I can get with these. So let's get started with this test. All right, a 32 Smith & Wesson long. The stuff is rated at 800 feet per second, but basically it shows that they're getting those velocities anywhere from about a 4 to a 5.5 inch barrel. So we'll probably get less than that, but let's see if we can get here with that 32 long through our LCR here. $7.18, $7.19, $7.11, $7.25, $7.05. So those are shooting really high and to the left for me. I had to hold low right to try to bring those back centered. So I don't know why they're shooting like that. That's why we got an error in that first shot, because it went away from the sensors too far. Now this stuff, they actually do show a Kel-tec, and they show 910 feet per second is what they got with this through a Kel-tec. So let's see how close I can get to 910 feet per second like they got. 32 ACP plus P. 775, 774, 779, 776, 793. So while that is okay velocity, just a tad more powerful than typical ammo, it is not 910 feet per second. So I don't know where they're getting that. So let's hit our ballistics gel block and see how these compare. All right, our shot in the plain clear ballistics. Let's see what we get with our 32 Smith & Wesson long. All right, let's hit that with our 32 ACP. Let's go take a look. Wow, big difference there going on. I wasn't expecting to see there such a big difference with these two. You know, the velocity, you know, that is pretty similar. I think their energy was higher with the 32 long. Yeah, that 32 went really far, and the only thing I can, you know, figure out why that would do that was probably because the 32 long is too long. The bullet is too long, so it's probably tumbling. As we're a 75 grain 32 ACP, it's less likely to tumble. So we're gonna get more penetration with our shorter bullet there. So what we got going on for penetration with our 32 Smith & Wesson long is right there at 13 inches. So that's not bad, but our 32 ACP went way too far, and we're looking at about 26.5 inches. So honestly, I don't think that would over penetrate in a real situation, because it's hard to explain this, but like if you had a 45 ACP that went that far, it would definitely go through an attacker. But something that has the power levels of this basically won't, even though it over penetrates in gel. It's a weird thing. It's hard to even explain, but we should get a lot different penetration with our rib simulation in there. So let's put it in our ribs, put on our sweatshirt material, see how they compare in more of our real world simulation. All right, more of our real world simulation. 4 layers of sweatshirt material, 3 inches of clear ballistics, a 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard. Let's see what our 32 long does. All right, let's hit that with our 32 ACP. Let's go take a look. Yeah, and I kind of expected that. And this is one of those things, you know, clear ballistics by itself isn't a great medium, nor is organic gel, because a lot of times it doesn't show, you know, what a dense rib would do. And it doesn't do much to service size calibers, but it does a lot to smaller calibers. So I do think it's always important to test through something that's going to be like hitting a rib, because it'll show some really big differences here. And I'm seeing kind of the same thing we saw in clear ballistics without the rib simulation, is it looks like our 32 long probably is tumbling and our 32 ACP is just punching straight. And we're going to kind of confirm that here. 32 long on the bottom going through our MDF, 32 ACP on top going through our MDF. So you can see here that's definitely starting to tumble with our 32 long, but our 32 ACP is punching through straight. So we have an obvious winner here. And, you know, for its intended purpose, I would say our 32 ACP is better, because we'll get this clear ballistics shot out of the way, the plain one, and look at what's more realistic with ribs in there, rib simulation. And what we're looking at with our 32 long is a penetration of 11 inches. Camera parallax will make it look like that's probably at about 12, but it's at 11 inches. And we have just a little bit under penetration. Our 32 ACP, 13.5 inches of penetration. That's totally acceptable. That's about the penetration of a lot of 9mm hollow points after they expand. And I think that's really kind of the purpose here, is to get adequate penetration so that you can stop a threat. So I would say our 32 ACP, even though it was really far below our rate of velocity, you know, it did a little bit better. So let's pull this out of the block. We'll take a close-up look at them. Then I'm going to shoot our armored ballistics gel block there, see what they do, and then I'll shoot our steel and see what kind of practical accuracy I can get with these. All right, so here's a close-up look at these bullets. You're not going to learn a whole lot from looking at these, because they are hard cast and they deform even less than a full metal jacket a lot of the time. So 32 ACP, you can see we got a wax seal around there to aid in lubrication, reduce leading a little bit. 32 ACP through our plain gel. 32 Smith & Wesson long, it is significantly longer of a bullet there. A lot more lead going on, you know, 75 versus 115 grains, so is that 40 grains more? A lot more lead going on there. 32 long, plain gel. Now going through our medium density fiberboard. You know, there's a little bit more marks on this bullet here with our 32 ACP, but really nothing significant going on with it. But that's good. That's a good sign of a good hard cast bullet. It's cast very well, really hard. And a 32 long. Even though we are tumbling through MDF, we actually did not see any deformation here. So a 32 long going through MDF. Like if this were a standard soft lead bullet, and this were going through a little bit keyhole through that MDF, this bullet would be completely bent. But being a hard cast, it held together quite well. Which, you know, that's going to cause a lot of damage, because if you look at that long-wise, you know, I'm not going to measure that, but I would guess that that's at least 8/10 of an inch. So it's kind of like when you tumble this thing, it's kind of like like a 45 ACP hollow point as far as the hole cutting it's going through. It just isn't going to go very deep because there's not enough mass there to push it deep. But interesting overall. So that's a close-up look at those. All right, so I actually came back from 20 yards because I'm a little bit nervous about, you know, mild steel. And it's very thin steel, so I would say there's a 95% chance of these zipping right through it, but just that little bit of you know, concern there. It's always good to err on the side of caution. So 32 ACP, 20 yards, full metal jacket. Let's see if I can hit this thing. All right, I hit it. 32 Smith & Wesson long. Let's see what this does. And I think I missed it. Let me aim a little bit to the right. There we go. It is shooting a little bit off for me, so let's go up and take a look at that. All right, so I think I had a little bit of a right to be concerned. It looks like our 32 ACP went through it, but our 32 long did not fully penetrate this steel. So that obviously ricocheted off. So let me shoot these with the hard cast, then we'll take this apart. We'll take a look at what we got going on inside of there. All right, we have our hard cast loaded up here. Let's see if I can hit this with our 32 ACP. I think I missed it. Yeah, it looks like I grazed it. Let me get a better shot going on with that. All right, I might have to go up closer, but let me focus a little bit better. I think I can hit this, no problem. Just trying to avoid that other 32 long shot. So see if I can hit this. There we go. All right, 32 Smith & Wesson long. Hard cast. All right, let's go take a look at that. All right, so here we are, 32 ACP hard cast, 32 long lead round nose, FMJ 32 ACP, 32 long hard cast. We have a 32 ACP hard cast here. I'm going to discredit that because it looks like it did not hit the gel block. So we'll take a look and see what we got going on with these. Use this for a reference here. And we went through with one of these bullets. It's actually the 32 long, went all the way through with our hard cast through the steel here. So here's the back side of it. 32 ACP hard cast punched right through. 32 FMJ did the same thing. Now here's our 32 long lead round nose that did not go through. There's our 32 hard cast, 32 long hard cast. So kind of hard to see through this old block. It looks like most of these went through, and we did go right through with our 32 ACP hard cast. So most of these went through except right here with our 32 long lead round nose that just kind of left a mark on that gel. 32 ACP hardcast zipped right through. Looks like I hit one below the steel. And then a 32 long hardcast went through. That's what we caught there. And our 32 ACP full metal jacket actually went through as well. So, you know, we caught several of these. They're in there. It'll take me a while to pull these out, but I'm just gonna leave them in there. They're in there. So what we can see here is that 32 ACP, you know, even though it did a lot better than the 32 long, looks like the full metal jacket would do pretty much the same thing as this hard cast. But it does look like the hard cast ultimately in a softer target does penetrate a little bit further than the full metal jacket from past tests I've done. So interesting. Let me shoot our steel, see what kind of practical accuracy I can get on steel now. All right, 40 yards from the target, our Dickon drill distance, just for fun. And I guess a little bit of practical knowledge here. You might want to know how these will shoot from 40 yards. So our 32 long, let's see how I can do with this. So it's shooting a little bit high from my point of hold. You might have noticed that I had to open the cylinder. With this LCR here, sometimes you can do a thing where it's like you short stroke that trigger pretty easily. Just because it's so light, it's not like a normal double action where you can just like, you know whether you did that or not. The LCR, it's already so light to begin with, it's easier to do that. So pretty accurate overall though. So our 32 ACP, see how these things will shoot for me. Oh, first time I've had a malfunction with this pistol ever. And we have a nosedive down malfunction. It could be a rim lock for all I know. Having a hard time clearing this too. Because we don't have a slide lock. And I can't get it to move. So, can't get that mag out. Can't strip it. So, if I were out in a serious situation, I'd probably have to pull this back and manipulate this round and out of the magazine. I'm not even sure this will do it. I'm gonna try to remove the magazine from the top there. There we go. So I don't think it's, I'm not sure if it's rim lock. I don't think it is. I think it's just the design of these bullets. However, it does seem like they're in there kind of hard, like it doesn't want to move. So there's a possibility this is rim lock, and this is a thing. I was kind of concerned about this when I saw them because they are very short. They're not reaching the front of that magazine here. So I think that may be locked in there. I'll try one more time to feed that. Yeah, I think that's rim locked in, so. Pull that back. Get the mag release, push it from the top there. So, it may take me a moment here to free this. You know, I'm just going to leave it at that because I don't think I'm going to be able to get that out right here in the field. So that's an end of this test here. So I was going to say 100%, you know, this is a better option here. And when it comes to our terminal ballistics, it is. It performed better. But here's the thing, you could get that issue because these bullets are shorter. So really the only solution, at least in this Kel-tec that I know of, is they make strips, they used to, that you put in the back of the magazine, it fills it up, pushes the bullet more towards the front of that magazine, which would prevent this from happening. That's why most people, they only want to carry longer 32 ACP rounds, because what happens is these are semi-rimmed. You'll get a rim, you can kind of see this. The cartridge second in line is higher forward than the one right here. So what happened is that moved forward, and the little slight rim on this first one got hooked around the back of that, so now we can't move it forward. So I'll probably have to pop out the magazine bottom and pull the whole magazine apart to get the rest of those rounds out. That's probably my only solution for that at this point. So I'm kind of disappointed that that happened, but at the same time, it's a known issue. So it's not really buffalo boars, you know, lack of quality or anything like that. This is just how it happens. Now, it would be nice if they were loaded a little bit differently, maybe even with a little bit of heavier bullet moving slower, so that we would not get that issue. Like maybe a 90 grain instead of a 75, maybe push that forward so we won't get that rim lock issue. That would be my suggestion to buffalo boar. But yeah, interesting overall here. So for their intended purposes, for our terminal ballistics, what we can say is that our 32 ACP definitely did a little bit better in terminal ballistics than our 32 long. But our 32 long, actually is more surprising in a way, because when we look at what the full metal jacket 32 ACP does versus this hard cast, there's not a huge difference there. As when we look at a typical 32 long, which is typically a lead round nose very much of the time, we bounced off that piece of 22 gauge steel. But with the hard cast, we punched through that and all the way through 6 inches of ballistics gel and stopped in that, you know, blanket backstop. So I would say for the intended purpose overall here, our 32 long is a little bit better. You actually get something out of this that you might not get out of a traditional cartridge. Our 32 ACP, it's marginally better than FMJ, but it's not a lot better than FMJ. And with those shorter cartridges and this rim lock we got, it's kind of not a good option in my opinion. So interesting test overall. You guys can tell me what you think. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.